Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the Disney Plus show Hawkeye. So it just came out on Disney Plus, I think 2 weeks ago. They release a new episode every Wednesday, I believe. And we're only going to be talking about the first episode today, but we will be getting into spoiler territory. So if you have not seen the first episode, go ahead, go back and watch it on Disney Plus, then come back and watch our show. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So, one of the things that I liked right off the bat about Hawkeye was how it started with them telling you that you were in 2012. And immediately I realized that this was about to lead into the first Avengers movie because the first Avengers movie was in 2012. Because up until recently, the years that the movies came out were the years that we actually were in the Marvel world. So the moment you see that year, you're like, okay, these people are about to be involved in the alien invasion that happens in that movie. And they think they did a really good job of playing with the perspective and making scenes that we had already seen in the Avengers seem like they mean something more because now we're seeing the same scene from another angle. So we get to basically experience how this girl was inspired by Hawkeye in this moment because he didn't even know that he saved her life and what that leads to for her because the whole opening montage is basically about Kate Bishop becoming this person that's been inspired by Hawkeye. So the opening segment, I think, of Hawkeye was very strong and very cool to kind of see that dichotomy, especially considering that Hawkeye generally is considered to be the least interesting Avenger.
Ouch. But no, I agree. I figured as soon as I saw 2012 that it was gonna be the what is it called, the Battle of New York.
Of New York,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I love seeing different perspectives, like different point of views from other characters. And to be honest, I feel like I could watch a whole movie of just Battle of New York,
New York perspectives,
but from like people who are not the Avengers. So like
right?
all the
And it's
people, like
like,
maybe Nick Fury, or or like
right.
whoever else works at Shield and stuff like that, and then the civilians, and have like some weird Titanic story going on
Right.
with that as the background. Yeah, Disney, if you can hear me, please make this. I will watch it. I may pay $30 to watch that on Premiere. Um,
Wow. You know what you're talking about though was actually how they started Batman versus Superman. Batman versus Superman kind of started from the ground level of like their quote unquote battle. You can call it the battle for Metropolis, which happened in Man of Steel. They show it from the ground level where you see all this stuff being destroyed and all the people and how they're reacting to this fight between gods from their perspective, and it's one of the coolest segments of the movie. So I think that you're onto something here about, especially if you've seen the perspective of the heroes at least once, seeing it from the ground can add another layer to that experience.
Definitely. But going back to Hawkeye, I agree that was a cool way to introduce the character. And I was like wondering who this girl is. I had no background going into it. All I
Okay.
knew was that it was based off of a comic book that was made a couple of years ago.
Yes, it's
Um,
My Life as a Weapon by Matt Fraction, and I forget the artist, but and it is yeah, it deals with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop and the dog. But yes, Matt Fraction is the writer, and he is the same person that wrote other comic books like Sex Criminals and things like that. He's married to Kelly Sue DeConnick, who is the writer who did a run of Captain Marvel comics as well. So the two are kind of a powerhouse writing couple in just comic books in general. And they're from the Bay Area, or at least live in the Bay Area.
nice, nice. Um, but yeah, like going into it, I didn't know any of that. I just knew that it was from a comic book. So I didn't know who Kate was. Um, I did like the title sequencing I
Yeah, it's
thought the
really cool, right?
yeah, like the art looked really good, and then I heard that the art was pretty much straight from the book. And then I like the graphics just because there's a lot of storytelling just through the graphics, which I think is awesome. It's always like really good when you have a movie or a show where the opening title sequence actually adds to what you're watching.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
it's her training montage, right?
yeah,
They're basically giving you a reason to believe that she could fight people when she's an adult because she's literally been training how to fight since she was 8 or 9 years old.
yeah. So we basically get to see her grow up. Another thing I wanted to point out, actually, and you can laugh at me for this, for saying this, but they are loaded,
Right?
loaded. Um,
That's what my roommate said when she saw it. She was like, "Wow, y'all got it made."
yeah, but then like it kind of makes you think about it, and you know my audio, like the people that I was watching it with, made a very good point that like they're like if you're gonna be a normal person and like a regular human being without superpowers, the only way
Gotta be
that you could be like super anything or a hero is if you're rich.
as if you're rich.
And this
Just
is
ask this way.
why
Yep.
like Batman or Oliver Queen.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you just need to fund your skills, the training of your skills, and your the ability to hide your identity and such. So
Yeah, it doesn't
so
it
there's
doesn't come
that.
cheap. All those tournaments and things that she was in, and all the things that she paid for to like just learn, like learning archery, learning martial arts, and all this other stuff. Yeah, she that cost money, and then she went to a very good school as well. And I get the feeling she wasn't there purely on scholarship.
Yeah, and breaking a clock and the whole tower with the bell as well. Eh,
That
no
happened.
consequence.
Consequences. I was like, someone could have literally died. Like, God forbid, like, if you've ever been on a college campus, just because it's night doesn't mean people aren't walking about. It's just like in the city. So some couple or some, student that just wants to get out for a late night run could have been running by the clock tower at that point, and then all of a sudden a bunch of debris crushes them and kills them. Like, people could have literally died from her negligence. And I literally was just like, all right, well, I guess fortunately no one died, but like you said, no real consequences because also they have money, so they can just pay the bill and move on.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm not even really sure what she was trying to do. Was she just trying to ring the bell?
He was just trying to ring the bell,
And why?
and and I felt like they were trying to make a point that they make this joke of is it the little thing in the middle that rings the bell, or does the bell move and hit the thing in the middle? So that was what they were trying to prove, but it's also one of those things of why do you need to climb a building, risking yourself, like risking your life because you could fall off the building and die, but climb a building, then shoot an arrow with pinpoint accuracy just to ring the bell. Like,
Right.
I get it. I think they're trying to show that she's just impetuous, though. I think that's the point of it, is that she doesn't really think things through and she just does things. And they make that a point for the rest of the episode because Kate ends up getting herself into some issues. And this first episode feels more like it's Kate's episode because even though the show is called Hawkeye, which you can assume that it means that she's going to be the new Hawkeye, the fact is we don't spend that much time with Clint. We only see him and his family for little bits of time, but for the most part, it's focused on Kate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how about that musical?
I could do this all day. I was laughing my ass off. That was so.
I was
Was
like,
like,
I could totally, if that musical were real, I would totally watch it.
right? But it's funny because you know that that would happen in real life. You have these larger than life figures that save the world. They become legends, and people would make movies about them. They'd make plays about them. the strangest thing about that scene is the fact that Hawkeye would actually go to watch a musical about
Yeah.
an event that he was in.
Yeah, like the and not and it's also weird that I feel like that's not the correct type of musical, or I don't even know if they would make it a musical for, you know, the Battle of New York, which is a huge tragedy, right? It's kind of like
Yeah,
making
I know what you're about to say, and yes, that would be bad.
right. Well, I mean, I don't know if what you thought I was gonna say, but I was gonna say like World War II. Like if they made a movie or a play for that, I hardly think that it would be a musical.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
mean, there's just a lot of trauma. So, but I thought it was funny. The idea behind it is funny that they would make a musical about the Battle of New York. But like when you're watching the show though, and Clint's watching the musical, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really weird. Like, why is he there? Like, I'd have PTSD, and it would be incredibly uncomfortable to watch that again, having been through it and fought through it. And then also knowing that your best friend who died is going to be a character in it, I 100% wouldn't go. And like even if like my kid really really wanted to go, I feel like she was old enough to be like, I don't think I should bring dad to this or make dad watch this.
Yeah.
That's
Because
too
the
much.
one good thing that they make a point of with his kids is that they seem very aware, specifically his daughter. So she knows he's going through something, and she even asks him, "Hey, are you okay?" And I know that she was your best friend. So his daughter is very aware and very conscious to what's going on around her. So I absolutely think that you're right about that. Like she would be the one to voice. I don't think Dad should go to this.
Yeah. So it was just really weird that he was there. And and I'm not sure why they put it there besides to try to make it funny. But if they were gonna make it funny, I feel like they should have had someone else watching that musical and then coming out of it and then
Talking
have
about it.
Hawkeye walking, yeah, and then Hawkeye like walks by them with his kids. I feel like that
Mm,
would have been more appropriate. And still but still
yeah,
have the ability to show us that little fun thing of there being an Avengers musical.
right. Yeah, and going from that, it's interesting that we get to see because first when we didn't see Hawkeye's wife, I was wondering if they just they weren't able to bring back that actress. Oh man, I'm forgetting her name now, but I thought that they might have been able to bring her back, but then she pops up when they're talking on the phone, so she's there. So it's actually a story reason for why she's not there, and that's for him to spend some time with his family because he's been gone a lot of times, considering everything that he has to do, and she's used to it. Because the other thing to remember is that before Hawkeye was an Avenger, he worked for the government as like a secret agent. So she is like been so used to this, and that's why she's so like cool about it. And even with him like being like spending time with his kids, but I like his kids too. His kids are all like they don't seem like a bunch of jerks. They seem chill, so they don't annoy me. Um, yeah, and
They
I
don't
think
annoy
the other thing
me.
that stands out about this episode, but I think this is the part of the episode that can either, if you saw the trailers, you knew this was coming, but it plays, especially this first episode, plays very much like almost a Christmas Home Alone type vibe when you're watching it, down to like the music and everything. Like they want you to know it's Christmas, and you are constantly reminded.
Yeah, which I thought it was weird. It was almost like a Christmas special,
Right?
but
Yeah.
in like a Die Hard kind of way.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, like what's the reasoning behind it. And I also like I have a lot of questions about the dog. Can we talk about the dog really quick? I don't get the dog.
I was about to lead to
Maybe
the dog. Yeah.
I mean, I love dogs. Like I'd have a dog in a show any day. But I think the with the dog and the whole Christmas thing, I think that really makes this opening of the show And I really hope they commit to the way they made this first episode, because with all those elements in it, they made it very kiddish. Like, I feel I'm watching a show for kids. And even though there's like a lot of fighting and stuff like that. So, but I do feel like it's for, an adolescent. And I don't get the dog. Like, okay, she talks to the dog. That's a very, for kids things. And then she like follows the dog, and I don't know why. Like, at first, like, I thought maybe the dog picked up the watch that the bad guys were trying to get, but no, she just chases after the dog, and she's like, "Hey, wait!" And I'm like, okay, if me like 15 years ago would have been like, "Yes, follow the dog. Why? Yeah, let's go be with the dog." But then, like, she brings it into some place that we've never seen before, and
Into
then
her apartment. Like, yeah, we hadn't seen her apartment yet, but that is her
yeah,
apartment that she has on her own outside of the place that she, I guess, stays with her mom.
right. But they never told us that, so
Nope.
she just appears at this place, and we just have to make those assumptions. And maybe because I'm a continuity person, like that was my job for a while. But where did this leash come from?
She picked one up off the ground.
So like, and I just have questions about the dog, and I think maybe I just have to watch more to like figure it out.
Cheryl has
But
questions about the
I
dog.
have questions about the dog.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, though. Like, because even in that moment, like, I felt like it almost felt to me like the Christmas Miracle episode, where you find the dog. They even had the little like chime music that you hear whenever you watch like one of these like kiddie Christmas movies, where it's like the ding when something like magical is about to happen. That's what happened when she saw the dog for the first time, and I thought that was kind of like I was like, all right, well, it's Christmas, so whatever. But yeah, the logic of chasing after a dog after you just got shot at, it's not necessarily chasing after the dog as much as it is just like I got to get the heck away from all these people that just tried to kill me. Because remember, even though she's trained how to fight and everything, she actually hasn't been in a gunfight before, and she's never had her life actively on the line. And the I do like the fact that while she was fighting, she was messing up. But the only thing that helped her was that the people that she was fighting against were almost as incompetent as she was at being a superhero. But the fact is that since she had never been in an actual gunfight before, chasing after the dog is like the last thing you're thinking about. You're like, I gotta get
Mm-hmm.
gone. But maybe the dog ran in the way the dog ran is the only way that she could have run too. In which case, fine.
But that doesn't explain why she yelled, "Hey, wait!"
because
Which
because it is
solidifies.
right because it is partially Disney. And see, that's the thing. I would like to see. I actually don't want them to be married to this kitty tone, but I can respect it if they do because then it's like they made a choice and they stuck with it. I I like the whole vigilante ground level superhero type thing that they're going for. So like things like Daredevil, right? Like I like how gritty and realistic Daredevil feels, and I'm not saying that this has to be as gritty as Daredevil, but I like the idea that you have Hawkeye, who is a ground level superhero because he's a normal human being, but he's really skilled, having to be really skilled in dealing with these really bad people who are just humans, by the way. They're not super powered or anything else like that. So I would like to see it get a little more serious in points, but as far as this first episode goes, it feels kind of it feels kind of Disney.
Yeah, and I really don't know. I really don't feel like this should be for kids. Because I don't think Hawkeye, like Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, was ever written to be a for kids type of character. Like, he's just been through so much, like, of like all the Avengers, like except for maybe after Thor. I feel like but even Thor is written comically often.
Right.
But Hawkeye has never been written comically. So it's hard to see that character being put in or represented in a situation or a genre of anything that's anything other than dark and serious.
You are
So
going to hate the second episode. You are
oh
going to despise the
oh
second episode.
boy.
But no, I hear what you're saying, and I agree, especially because you were talking about PTSD earlier. When he's watching the play, he has that moment where he has PTSD about losing Nat. But also remember when he sees the outfit, the Ronin outfit that Kate wears, he has PTSD about that because that was a dark point in his time because he did that because his family all disappeared.
Yeah,
They
his
were
whole
gone. They
family
were dead.
disappeared.
So he basically went on a murderous killing spree of all criminal organizations around the world, not just in New York. He went to Japan. That scene they show, he was in Japan. He killed a dude. This is a hero, and he killed a dude. So he has murdered a bunch of people, and then he also sees the outfit that he wore when he was murdering those people when he hasn't seen it in a long time. Like, yeah, that's a serious concept. You're right. That isn't a character that is being written for kids.
Yeah. So it's just, yeah, 100% really hard to see. And so far, like, the little bit that we did see him in the first episode, he has been very serious.
Yeah.
So I just can't see, I mean, unless they're going to, like, uh, make it way more about Kate and he's, like, just barely in it and he's, like, the, sensei or whatever and he's only, like, there in the show for like very little of the time, then fine, I guess. Because then it's
Yeah.
not about him. It's not his show, it's her show. Then I can accept it.
Based on the opening in the first episode, it makes it. I don't think we'll see that montage every time the show begins, but it does try. It does feel like it's stating a statement that this is a passing of this torch type
Mm-hmm.
deal. Like Kate Bishop will be the Hawkeye in future Avengers movies, most likely. Even though I would love to see Jeremy Renner keep doing his thing, but it probably will be where he is more of a mentor type role to Kate as he's ushering her into being the Hawkeye that she could be, and he'll train her and show her what's up. But then again, maybe the show will surprise us and do something completely different that we're not expecting. But it is based on this comic book story where essentially that is what was happening, where he was rearing Kate up to be Hawkeye.
Right, and I want to bring up one thing from the Black Widow movie. So if you haven't seen Black Widow, the after credits scene, tune out real quick. But at the end of that movie, we had like a woman come and approach Black Widow's younger sister with a photo of Hawkeye and
Right.
saying that he is essentially responsible for her
Her
sister's
death.
death. And I think like she's probably like I think because she was in Winter Soldier and Falcon. So sorry if you watched if you didn't watch that, tune out real quick. But I hadn't seen it, but apparently she's in that too, and she recruits the villain in that, and they're making some kind of like revengers for like evil people, and
Thunderbolts, I believe, is what
yeah.
they're the team that they're making. But yeah,
Yeah, so maybe they're gonna do. So I'm thinking maybe they're gonna do something with that, and that's gonna maybe make an appearance in this show as well, and that maybe be the way that he bows out and exits. Um,
maybe.
yeah.
And they seem to be building this mystery with Kate Bishop and her storyline. They're suggesting that this man that Vera Farmiga is married to or getting ready to get married to is not all that he appears to be. His uncle is very shady too. They're buying things on the black market, and yeah, like there there probably will be an equal amount of story for Kate and the mystery that she's dealing with, as well as this thing that you were bringing up that might be more related to Clint and his story. one thing I also wanted to say is that Haley Steinfeld, I think her name is. Um, I I do like her as an actress, and I was having like I don't mind her being Kate. I think that she can pull it off very well, especially if this is like how the character is. And I liked her suit. I liked the suit that she wore to that party, that all black. I said, okay, you get it. That's what's up. And I like that they also tied that suit into her being able to sneak in to the black marketplace because it was, it's a little coincidental, but whatever. You could argue that it is a waitery type suit. So now all of a sudden she's able to like sneak in because of her wardrobe. So it's a little thing, but it was something that I did at least appreciate.
Yeah, and it was funny because I do remember her mom asking her to put the red dress on, and she
Yep.
shows up in the suit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a little fun thing. I like that at least we're trying to do something a little bit different. We're not making her all glammed out and I guess like sex appealed,
Right.
um, which I think is a good move.
Yeah. So I know that in general, we talked a little bit before this show, but in general, how did you feel about this first episode?
I thought it was okay. It's not really for me.
Yeah.
Um, Probably because I'm not 15.
Dang.
But the whole dog thing just really got me. It's just like this is not a show. I'm not the target audience. I don't feel like the target audience. So,
Right.
but at the same time, I do feel like the target audience because everyone that like watches Marvel should be the target audience. But I don't feel like it appealed enough to me as an adult to want to keep watching it. Um, so I honestly don't know if I will keep watching it.
Yeah, and I
But
think
we'll
that's
see.
fair. I feel like the first episode will lose a lot of people, and I've heard that the third episode is where it really starts to pick up. So I'll probably continue watching it. I watched the first two episodes, and I don't think you'll like the second episode much better. I do think the second episode starts building up a little bit more, but there's this whole segment in there that it makes sense for the story with how they set it up, but it doesn't have to be there, and it feels weird, and it if it wasn't done, if it wasn't as long as it was, then it would have been better. But it kind of still plays into that whole thing that you were talking about earlier, where you don't think Hawkeye is necessarily a comedic character, but they're placing him in these kind of comedic moments for the tone of this show, and to varying degrees of success. I don't think everyone will be bothered by it. It this particular scene bothered me a little more, and I start to actively get frustrated, kind of like we were talking about Jungle Cruise. But it does seem like the show will start to pick up. But I haven't seen episode 3 yet, so I don't know that. But I can tell you that based on the first two episodes, I don't think, even if you did watch the second episode, I don't think that that would have even been enough to make you want to watch more of the show.
Yeah, but then it's hard to say because um, without getting into detail, for WandaVision, the first two episodes were completely different than the rest of that show, and I it didn't get me after the first two episodes. So who's to say? It's like what you said. It didn't really pick up until the third episode when things really got moving. So maybe I do need to give it a chance. I thought,
Usually, yeah.
yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier, that one was so boring. I couldn't even get through the first episode, so I don't know. Who's to say?
Usually my rule for shows is usually 3 episodes. Whether it's an anime, whether it's a television show, whether that's half an hour. Usually I try to give them 3 episodes before I know if I'm gonna like it or not. But in an hour long show, that's 3 hours time commitment basically. So
Mm-hmm.
that can be
Yeah.
that can be hard to commit to. But what you said is a good point. WandaVision was another show where people, when it starts off, they're like, "This is kind of slow. This is kind of boring." But as it keeps going, you understand why those first episodes were there because they need to set the tone and they need to build it up so that when they get to the things where things are really popping off, you have it feels earned as opposed to things just happening. And I do get the feeling that maybe Hawkeye might be like that too. These first two episodes are about setting up the conflict, setting up these characters, reintroducing us to Hawkeye where he is right now, introducing us to this new Hawkeye and seeing how she's going to interact with Clint. And then now that we've kind of laid the groundwork, we can start to like get into the meat of what the story is actually going to be about. So I would say that. So for me personally, I did not personally enjoy the first two episodes like immensely. I wasn't like when I watched Daredevil where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to, by the end of episode two, I'm like, I have to keep watching. I would say that Hawkeye is it's fine. There were some good moments. I did laugh. I overall enjoyed myself, but I did find myself getting frustrated at certain scenes with the tone because it
Dog.
wasn't dog because it wasn't what I was hoping for from the show, but just because but that might be because like Cheryl was saying, I might not be the target audience. But that being said, I am willing to give it at least 3 episodes to see if it still holds my interest, and then I'll be able to make an accurate judgment because sometimes when you're telling a story, you need time. So I'll give them 3 episodes and we'll see how that time is spent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. However, I don't have that much time, so it's hard to give it.
Fair enough. So we're coming up on time here. Is there anything else that you kind of wanted to mention about this first episode of Hawkeye before we get out?
Yeah, real quick. It's hard to imagine that Kate would fit into the Ronin suit.
It was a little baggy on her at least. Like it didn't fit her
I saw
perfectly.
that
So I
waist.
like that.
I saw that waist.
I said the same thing to my roommate. I was like, Jeremy Renner's kind of a, he's kind of a big guy and he's got muscles. So if that suit fit him perfectly, it would be like a oversized dress on her.
I would have found it acceptable if she looked like a wizard.
Yes, it didn't fit her. It didn't fit her perfectly. Like it wasn't slim fit, but it clearly wasn't the same outfit that they had Jeremy Renner wear in Avengers, as far as like the size.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it probably should have been a little baggy on her. But I'm at least happy that it didn't magically fit her perfectly.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna call it here. We'll continue our talk on Twitch, which if you haven't checked out our Twitch channel, it's twitch.tv/C3Films. We'll make sure you come over there and hang out with us and get in the comments, and we can have a good time. We talk more on our streams after we do these segments on YouTube. But what did you think about Hawkeye? Did you watch it on Disney Plus yet? Have you seen the first 3 episodes? Since we haven't seen the first 3 episodes, we only seen 1 and 2 respectively. Is episode 3 where it really picks up? Does the rule kind of hold still? Or do you guys still feel like even after episode 3, it's not really holding your attention? Whatever you thought about it, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we'll see you all next time.